So I've been really contemplating the idea of standing up for myself. And the question that has really gotten me curious is, why is this such a problem? Why is it so hard for people to stand up for themselves? I know for me in my life, I've gone through phases where I've just sort of accepted the way the world is, or the way people are acting or treating me. And the idea of standing up for myself, or even taking those tentative steps towards standing up for myself, was challenging, confronting, or felt impossible. And working with clients and interacting with people, I see this situation arising where they struggle to put themselves first. They struggle to speak, they struggle to act, they struggle to do. And it relates to a lot of things. I think it goes back to childhood and how we saw our parents interacting with each other, and how they interacted with us, and how we navigated and viewed our early worlds, our attachments and all of these things. But the back end cause isn't as important as sort of working out what's going on in the present moment. Because ultimately, unless we stand up for ourselves, unless we take action, unless we look after ourselves, we are victims of whatever the world decides to give us. And it seems like there is a strong need to put ourselves first, because ultimately, when it comes down to it, everyone's out for themselves. And I don't mean that from a capitalistic, negative sort of Machiavellian sort of perspective, but you need to look after yourself first, because everyone needs to look after themselves first in order to survive. You need to feed yourself. You need to have water. You need to find shelter. You need to earn the money to get those things. You need to look after your general health. It's on you. It's all on you to look after yourself. You need to take yourself to the doctor. You need to put yourself into relationships that are positive: work, social, familial, interpersonal, love, romance, all of these things. And you need to get yourself out when those things start going poorly. If they do, it's on you. And that's just the general run-of-the-mill normal life. If people are actively out to get you, hurting you, abusing you, if you have people in your life that don't have your best intentions, that are actively trying to sabotage you, then the world will push you down a hole, and unless you fight back, you will succumb. Now, I'm a massive advocate of acceptance. As in, we have to accept the moment as it is for what it is right now. We need to accept reality. And that's a part of mindfulness practice, is just seeing what's going on and just accept it. Thoughts arise, you accept, which is great, but it leaves out the idea of making any sort of change in life. So I sort of take a dialectic approach where you accept where you are, but you take actions to become who you want to be. Because I prefer to accept the moment, accept the present moment that's good, that's positive, that I'm getting what I want, or I'm doing what I want, and that I'm enjoying my life. So that's the context, and I know that a lot of you can relate to the idea of struggling to stand up for yourself. So I've broken it down to 3 issues of why people may struggle to stand up for themselves. Self-worth is a major one. Knowing what you want, so actually sort of having an idea of a direction of where you're going to even stand up for yourself for. And this idea of holding space for the person or people you're going to upset by standing up for what you want. And it's really that third one that I want to dive into fully here. But we'll address the other 2 first. Self-worth. If you don't believe you are worthy, if you don't believe that you have just as much right to this world as anyone else, you're going to struggle. But that's the fact, is that you do have as much right to this world. No matter how you feel about that, you can step back from the feelings and look at it logically. From a ground-based fundamental perspective, we are all just here. We are all just existing. Now, yes, you may have religious beliefs or spirituality or some other sort of overarching morality that suggests certain people, certain things, certain places, certain professions, certain genders, certain, insert thing is higher up on a totem pole than others. That's great, but me personally, I'm agnostic. I don't know the truth, and I think everyone sort of doesn't really quite know the truth. So we sort of guess and play, and if your things that you were raised up to believe is correct, then maybe that's the truth of the world. But considering there's many, many, many different belief systems that are often contradictory, I tend to sort of strip it all away and go, well, what do I know for certain? It's obvious that we are all here. It's obvious that if we are all here, we all seem to be the same creature, human. So why would one human be worth more than someone else? Therefore, why would anyone else be worth more than me? Therefore, I have just as much right to have a good life as anyone else. Do you see that logic chain there? All human life is equal, is worth the same amount. Therefore, my life is worth just as much as yours. Because a lot of people that are probably listening to this will struggle with self-worth. This could be a function of the past, abuse, neglect, all of those sort of things. It could be a attachment thing. It could be personality. Who knows why? But ultimately, one of the reasons why you might struggle to stand up for yourself is because you don't feel worthy. I've shared this story before, but I remember I was going to park at a shopping centre and it was raining, and I parked outside far away from the undercover area with my partner. She's like, "Why are you parking there?" And I'm like, "People like me don't deserve to park under there." And as I was saying it, she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Ooh, that's interesting. That's one to examine." And I realized that I've got this fundamental core feeling of a lack of self-worth due to, well, my past. I wasn't treated the way that I should have been treated, and therefore I internalized that. There may be something similar for you. So self-worth is one thing to look at. If you don't believe you are worthy, then that is something to meditate on, to consider, to think about, to contemplate, to dive into. And there's inner work, shadow work, and I will put a link to a free shadow work resource that can help you dive into your inner child, into your inner space, to really sort of give you the tools to dig into that. And if self-worth is a struggle, that will help. So I encourage you to check the links in the show notes to grab a copy of that one, and it's free. Get started. It's been downloaded, I think, tens of thousands of times now. So get on it. But let's move on. Self-worth. Let's assume that it's not a self-worth issue, or maybe it's a combination of all of these, but we address the self-worth. You heal your inner child. You convince yourself that you're worthy, but you don't know where you're going. You don't know what you actually want. You don't know what it is to be or to receive or to have a peaceful life that you want. Directionless, rudderless, drift in the nothingness, devoid of purpose and point. That kind of thing. So that's the second problem. You don't know where you're going. You don't know your purpose. You don't know your calling. This is a tough one. But once again, I think the answer comes down to introspection, to sitting with yourself and going, okay, what brings me joy? What do I enjoy doing? What do I want to be doing? Asking these questions and allowing time for the answers to arise. Sitting in silence with it. And if you don't have a purpose, I sort of envy these people that just know what they want to do. And I'm becoming one of those people, actually, but I used to really envy them because it's like, what I would give to know just what to do, to have a point, to have a purpose, to have a specific thing that was a calling. Well, if you don't have it, your calling is to discover it. I like the analogy of a distant mountain, that you're going to reach the peak, the summit. And obviously, the journey is the destination, but go with this analogy for a moment. The first job is to work out which direction the mountain is in. It's so far away you can't even see it, but you know it's north. So anything that takes you roughly north is closer. It's like, okay, these sort of people aren't taking me roughly north. This sort of job, this sort of workspace, this sort of interaction, this sort of relationship, this sort of activity aren't getting me closer to where I know I'm roughly wanting to go. How do you know roughly the direction? It's an inner feeling. It might feel like chills or tingles. It might feel like a resonance. It might feel like sitting into a space. It will just pop. It will just hit. That's something to consider. Sit in silence and ask the question. Find out where you want to go. There was an activity that I've given to clients and I put into the book, How to Get Your Shit Together. And I'll link you to the book too. I've put everything I do out for free. Well, all of the books and all of that sort of stuff I've put out for free on my website. Side note, I've rejigged my website. Encourage you to click through, check it out. You'll enjoy it. But in the book, How to Get Your Shit Together, I link to and I reference the idea of printing off a page of 100 or 200 values. Just value statements like loyalty or friendship or peace or family, all of these sort of things. And you circle or highlight the ones that resonate and jump out to you. Then you retype the list, and then you've got a list of, 20 things. And then you do it again and again until you get down to a manageable amount, and then you rank them, and you force yourself to rank them. Out of these 10, 20, whatever, 5 things, what's my highest out of these things? And that gives you an idea of what ranks high. So, for example, for me, family time ranks higher than, what's the good word here, like looking fancy, so to speak, or having a fancy car. I don't value cars. If I was to buy a fancy car, right, so this is how I use this metric as a way to make decisions. Should I buy a car, a fancy new car, or should I get an old school one that just works and, is safe but doesn't require much upkeep but isn't fancy? Well, if I value family, that time that I have to spend by working more to pay for that car could be better spent on my family. Or rather, the time that I would have been working, I could be spending that time with my family rather than working to pay off that car. Does that make sense? So every decision I make, if I've got this value tree, value hierarchy, I know that I'm like, okay, I value family, I value quiet time, I value introspection. Pick your things. You might value leadership, assertiveness. There's no right answer here as well. You might value something completely different to me. That doesn't invalidate you or me as a person. It's just what you are, what you value. The world is good because of the diversity. If everyone was like me, it would be boring. But if everyone was like you, it would also be boring. So you find what you value, you find what you like, and then when you're making a decision, when you're in a space, when you start resonating, you feel those things, you hold on to them, and you go, okay, this isn't sitting with that space, this isn't pushing down that path, I'll make a change, I'll tweak. I will move towards the things that go towards my highest values. Does that make sense? So that's the context. Now, the third reason, the main sort of trigger for me sharing this podcast, sharing my thoughts here, was this one. If you stand up for yourself, you have to hold space for the pain, for the duress, for the anger, the annoyance, the emotional impact that you're going to have on other people. If I stand up for myself, I'm going to piss you off. If I stand up for myself, I'm not going to be accommodating to everyone. I'm going to annoy people. I'm going to upset people. It's not going to be the best thing for them, necessarily, because that's what I want. It's what I need. It's my values. It's my push. And, I think we can see this playing out in real time on social media with politics. Everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's sharing it. And it's like this catastrophe, this burning house that we're all just dwelling in. But that's not real life. In real life, we tend to be as polite and as kind as possible. Most people. Because it's hard to do things, to say things, to be something that is, you. That is pushing for something that you want to be, that is potentially going to cause duress in someone else. If I stand up for myself, if I don't let myself be pushed over, if I speak and say no, then that's going to cause a problem in the other person because I'm not doing what they want. And if I can't deal with the emotions that my no brings, chances are I'm going to say yes and feel it and internalize that feeling myself. I was talking to my partner and she was saying something that I disagreed with. And me of a couple of years ago even, but particularly me of 10 years ago, would have stayed quiet, would have internalized it, would have twisted myself to just agree, to just put it down, just blocked it off. I wouldn't have handled it healthily. But instead, I just responded. And this is a minor thing, don't get me wrong, this is something so stupidly small that I can't even remember what the thing was. It's just a tiny little disagreement. But the act of saying no causes micro changes in the person you're talking to's face and tone and body. And if you were in a space in a childhood where you had to guard your words and your actions because the people around you were volatile, you're hypersensitive to those changes. And when they arise, they trigger you because they remind you of what happened when you were young. So you either block everything out or you change yourself so that you don't cause those changes in the person that's with you. But to stand up for yourself, to get what you want in life, to get what you even just what you need in life, you have to push into some of that. Because let's say I didn't stand up for myself and it's just a grain of sand. Today I didn't stand up for myself in that way. Next day, grain of sand, little thing. Eventually, my life, I'll open my eyes and I'm like, whew, I am not happy in any way of what's going on because I've given ground again and again. And now I'm here. I don't like where I am. It's like I took a step south rather than north over and over. Just one step, even though I didn't like it. And now I'm here. Then what happens? Then you run. Then you bail on the relationship. Then you quit. Then you break up. Then you cheat. Then you do whatever it is. Because you recognize this isn't what you wanted your life to be. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you shouldn't ever do what your partner or boss or whatever wants. Not at all. You definitely, life is compromise. Life is negotiation. Life is being exposed to new ideas, But it's about finding balance. I've got it, one of my many rules of, or principles of getting your shit together, going from surviving to thriving, is balance in all things. And I think I might do a podcast series at some stage talking about all of these once I've condensed them into as few sort of overarching principles as possible. But balance in all things. You need to be able to say no in order to say yes with conviction. If you're always like yes, yeah, okay, all right, yeah, like that's your energy. Not only is that not going to get you where you want, but it's also going to cause the person you're with to you're going to become a nothing burger. Have you ever been around someone that doesn't have an opinion, that doesn't have anything to say, that doesn't care? Those people are boring. Those people are, they're not bringing anything to the occasion, and their presence doesn't add or detract. It's just they're just taking space. And this might sound like offensive or controversial, but I've been that person. And it's, that you're just trying to placate everyone, but unless you bring yourself to the space, you actively have an opinion, you actively have a point, you're not really doing anything. And that's rough, but it's rough because you've got to hold space. So if I stand up for myself and I say no, that's going to cause conflict. I have to be able to engage with conflict. And I'm saying conflict, that sounds like a strong word, but I guess if we amp this up to physical conflict, violence, if someone is walking down the street and they start attacking you and you don't respond, not because you're a pacifist and that's your belief system, but you don't respond because you're afraid of arcing up, you're afraid of responding, you're afraid of hurting the person, you're afraid of, you can't hold space for you standing up, and therefore you're going to do what they're saying. That person will take advantage of you in whatever way they like. And that's an extreme case, but the more subtle or smaller cases is like this death by 1,000 cuts. Your partner says something and you just acquiesce, and then it happens again and again and again and again and again. That's not a healthy relationship for either of you. Same thing if it's your boss, same thing if it's your family, same thing if it's your child. You need to be able to hold space. Because here's the thing. How do I want to approach this? There is a thing that happens when you have trauma and you struggle to stand up for yourself, because when you stand up, they respond with the tone, the interactions, and it might be just a micro response of their tone, or it might be a micro response of how they're looking, or something's going on. But their response triggers you more because you're like, oh, I've upset the person. What does it mean to upset a person in a healthy relationship? You have a discussion. You talk it out. Even if you yell, which should be rare, but even if you actually argue, right? You're getting into it a little bit. You disagree strongly. The healthy relationship recovers that afterwards, and then you talk about it. And then you just resolve it. Then it's fine. You discuss it. You integrate it. You process it. That's healthy. What isn't healthy is silence. What isn't healthy is ignoring it. What isn't healthy is not addressing it. What isn't healthy is just one partner agreeing to everything the other partner says. Once again, back to the first thing, the self-worth. You have just as much worth as your partner. You have just as much worth as your partner. As a person, you are just as much worth as your boss, right? They might be a higher rank in the business, but as a human, you have just as much worth as that person. Yeah. Now, some bosses are terrible and you probably should quit if you feel like you're in a space where this person's treating you like shit. But you have just as much worth. But to push back involves risk and danger. And if you have faced trauma or triggers, that's hard. That's a hard thing to push back against. But what's the solution here? How can we deal with this? How can you learn to hold space for yourself? I want to share with you a little meditation idea that I do in the morning. What I do now is I sit down, take a breath and breathe slowly, deeply, calmly, and I try and check into myself. And I feel the tensions in my body and I just feel them and I accept them. I just sort of just hunt for the self, or rather allow the self to appear. There's tension in my neck or my groin or my belly or my butt or my back or my legs or shoulders or wherever it is. And I'm just like, okay, I'm feeling the physical tension and the relating emotions. But ever so slowly, ever so gently, I feel myself emerge. And for me, it's a visualization of an inner flame. For me, it's this feeling of tingling in the back of my neck and that transfers down my body. Once I start feeling that flame and knowing that I'm in this sense of the self, I sort of try and boost that flame with every breath. It's like, let's get into that. So it's the self. Let's move those tingles from around the body, up and down, backwards and forwards, and really just sit in the self. Thoughts come, feelings come, emotions come, moods come, and I just accept them. That's just what's happening. And I just sit back and resonate on that sense of self, almost combining the idea of an internal family system, sense of self, with a Vipassana-based mindfulness, with a Tantra-based or Reiki-based sort of energetic healing aspect, visualization. This is one of the techniques that I use with my clients, talking about doing intuitive guidance with them. So if you're curious or keen about working with me, I'll chuck a link below to the homepage of the website, actually, because that's where I've updated everything that I'm doing and made it look super fancy. Before I sign off, I'll tell you a little bit of a story. I use Squarespace to make my own website, and they wanted to upgrade me from 7.0 to 7.1, and I just knew this was going to happen. You get these intuitive feelings, and I'm like, if I do this transfer, my website's going to blow up. And I emailed them. I'm like, hey, can I check what it's going to be like first? Because if you change between sort of systems, it's going to involve a little bit of change as you integrate your current website and the design elements to the new website design elements. And they're like, yeah, sure, you can test it out. And when you're ready with the changes and tweaks, you can publish. I'm like, cool. Okay. And I'm like, but my original website will stay up while that happens. And they're like, yeah, of course, buddy. And I put it off for a year because I just knew that this was going to happen. And of course it did. I finally had the courage. I had the weekend this weekend free. And I'm like, okay, let's have a little look. Let's just play. So I set up the simulation of what 7.1 would look like. And then I opened up my website and it had crapped itself. All of the aesthetics on the website, the font, the color, the placement of the art, everything was out of place. Thankfully, the copy and all the blogs and everything that I've ever done on there is still there, but it just looked like trash. I'm like, wow. And I spoke to the help desk and they're like, we've got a cached version from 5 months ago, and it looks like it does now, so we can't help you. I'm like, it looked different yesterday, but anyway, nothing can be done. I don't dwell on things I can't change. So I had a choice: do I upgrade or do I revert, keep my website the way it was and just sort of remake it back to the way it was? And I decided to upgrade. So long story short, I've spent the last 3 to 4 days working tirelessly on my website. I'm moving towards the finished product, and it looks absolutely astounding. It is hyper-focused on what I want to hyper-focus. It's minimalistic, it's modern, it's fresh, it's beautiful. I'm absolutely loving it. And interestingly, it reminded me of one of the lessons from my Vipassana thing. I don't have to, I get to. it's like, oh, I have to redo the website because it blew up. It's like, no, I get to, and I'm so glad, because it feels like I've given myself, and I say myself as like my website, but myself a makeover. So I encourage you, I'll put the links in the show notes to the Shadow Work Journal, to How to Get Your Shit Together. Both of those are free. Like I said, I put most of my content out for free. I've got a couple of things in my courses shop area. You can check that out too. Pretty easy to see that from the homepage. Wink, wink. But I encourage you to click through and to check it out. And the Shadow Work Journal and How to Get Your Shit Together, and every book that I've put online ever written is out for free. So you can just download them or read them chapter by chapter, or any or all of that sort of stuff. So enjoy. And yeah, if you're keen on doing an intuitive guidance session with me, that option is available as well. You can book straight from the website, pay through Calendly. So that's pretty there. And if you're not sure about that, or you want some more information, you can read about it on the website. I'm going to be updating the, what actually happens during a session and all of these things on the website. Whether or not that's there when you listen to this, who knows? But I've also got the option for a free 15-minute chat where we can talk through, what I do, see if that's a good fit for you. But either way, I guess there is one more thing to sort of touch back upon, this idea of holding space for people, right? It relates even to this sort of work that I'm doing, now. Me wanting to work with you. And I say you because, I'm talking to you, but there's a specific sort of avatar, specific sort of person that I work with, or that I want to work with. Entrepreneurs, spiritualists, and survivors who are looking to process the past, accept the present, embrace the future with positivity and purpose, who are going through a dark night of the soul, or want, help finding peace, who want to, excuse me, a little bit of a cough there, who want to be guided internally and, unlock some of the inner blocks that are stopping them. If that's you, we should work together, because I can help you. But even like saying that and doing that, there's a bit of a pushback, because I have to put myself out there and be like, hey, what do I want here? I want to work with a certain sort of person, and it will be good for them. It'll be good for you. But I have to hold space for the fact that you might reject me. Oof, that's hard. So to even, just standing up for myself, I look at what I'm doing here online, the coaching, mentoring, intuitive guidance, counseling sort of work that I'm doing here, as standing up for myself and helping you to stand up for you. But I put myself out there, you reject me, oof, that hurts. I have to hold space for those feelings that arise. And I guess that if you're doing any sort of sales-based work, any sort of work where you're putting yourself out there, you have to hold space for that too. So if you're keen, if you're curious, let me know. And yeah, I guess I'll see you in the next session, and check the show notes for those links. Catch ya.